Welcome to our webinar, Optimize Your Fleet Operations with HERE Technologies. Thank you for taking the time to participate today. I'm Jessica Hablowitz, Marketing Manager at MBI, and I'm moderating this session. After our first very successful webinar together with our partner HERE Technologies on political conflicts and their impact on your business, we decided to join forces again for another session together. Therefore, we want to say a special thank you to the HERE Technologies team for their collaboration and joining us today. As one of the first global HERE Technologies distributors, we want to use this webinar as an opportunity for HERE to introduce their tour planning solutions. This session will demonstrate how HERE location services support you in advancing your solution to meet changing customers' expectations. Today's presentation will consist of three major parts. At first, we will get a short introduction into MBI's and HERE's partnership before we dive into how to optimize your fleet operations with HERE Technologies. Lastly, we will have a Q&A session where our experts will answer questions that might come up during the presentation. The webinar will be kicked off by Karina Ziegelmüller, Global Partner Manager at MBI. Prior MBI, Karina was with HERE Technologies for about 12 years. There, she was responsible for building up the partner ecosystem in Europe and APAC, focusing on solution partners through various industries. Also, we are very happy having Amol Naik from HERE Technologies presenting at today's webinar. Amol has worked in the field of industrial automation on topics related to manufacturing, robotics, and predictive maintenance before he transitioned towards tech with a focus on supply chain and logistics. Since 3 years, Amol is working at HERE on fleet management, managing products in the areas of routing, planning, and optimization. Before we start, I would like to add a few information on housekeeping. Firstly, you've been muted to avoid background noise during the presentation. We will have some polls during the session and would like to kindly ask you for your participation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the questions pane. We will answer those questions during our Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If there's not enough time to answer all your questions, we will get back to you via email. Last but not least, a copy of the slides as well as the recording of the webinar will be shared with you later on. So enough talking from my side. Let's get started now. Karina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jessica, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for your time today. So we understand, being probably for most of you working in a home office and being busy with all other Zoom meetings and webinars, we really appreciate your time because we really feel with you. It's a hard time, but I think we can entertain you at least for the next 15 minutes with a very interesting topic. And I would like to start with a little intro. And some of you are already quite familiar with Michael Bauer International, but I also can see some new attendees, and I'm really thrilled that even we have attendees from Asia, and I see some from the US East Coast. So a warm welcome to all of you. One beginning the day, the others are ending the day. So thanks a lot for attending. So MBI is a leading global data provider, which was founded in 2009 and is part of the Michael Bauer Group. Since then, MBI has not only built up a huge global product portfolio, but also secured its top spot as a data provider for leading retail, BI analytics, or automotive companies. Being a long-term preferred partner and provider to leading IT and GIS companies has been achieved through providing high-quality data, but also through our focused customer and partner support. MBI provides global standardized data sets which are consistent and comparable, helping companies to understand their business potential and build analytic solutions. To meet our partners' expectations and requirements, we are constantly expanding our product portfolio and services. Over the last 18 months, we have established MB Micromarketing in Düsseldorf, added global mobile trace data, and acquired Conias, who brings a rich portfolio of global political risk data, but also signed a distributor agreement with HERE to become one of the first global HERE distributors. We are very proud, coming a long way, of being a HERE partner and reseller over the past decade, covering HERE map data and location services. Now let's have a glance at the portfolio. You see many interesting use cases realized with our global boundaries and global market data to help companies developing their expansion strategy. Global mobile trace data has been added to the stack, allowing us to create new use cases such as daytime population density or retail focus areas. With political risk data, the CONIAS portfolio helps companies understanding the political resilience of countries and regions to manage a sustainable supply chain. Being a HERE distributor for the global HERE Technologies portfolio is a perfect fit and underlines also one of our USPs, providing globally consisting, meaning over 190 countries, and comparable data and services. Working hand in hand with HERE specialists, MBI is very proud to present a joint webinar for our planning. The MBI portfolio is produced and hosted in Germany, and MBI takes your privacy and security at most important, resulting in being 100% GDPR compliant. Now, as mentioned, we are a HERE Technologies distributor, officially and fully trained, and providing all of the HERE data portfolio, including traffic. We provide HERE licensing, consulting, services or data, any kind of licensing services, and we also have a highly ambitious team providing first-level technical support. With continuous training from HERE specialists, we try to provide a great partner experience for existing and new HERE products. As previously mentioned, one of MBI's strengths is market data, being used, for example, for advanced location and expansion planning. Previously, analyzing purchasing power was primarily based on the place of residence or assumed consumer journey. MBI is combining HERE location data and services with our socio-demographics data and anonymized mobile trace data. As a result, we provide a much better insight where customers actually are during the day. With daytime population, retailers or other consumer-focused companies understand much better suitable locations for their future expansions. To meet your customers' growing expectation, it doesn't stop with location planning. Availability of goods like fresh groceries are a given, and new services like same-day delivery of orders are becoming more important. Logistics companies are finding it hard to fulfill this increasing demand. Therefore, tour planning becomes more challenging. Now, let's watch the webinar with Amol to understand how you can utilize your fleet much better to serve your upcoming demands. Amol, the stage is all yours. Enjoy, everyone.
Thank you, Karina. Amol, I'm giving over to you now, so please go ahead.
Thank you. So, thank you very much, Karina, for the opportunity for the joint webinar and as well as setting the stage for my topic. So I'm here to talk about HERE tour planning. And this is our new product in the portfolio. It took some time in the making, but recently we launched it officially on our developer portal, as well as making it available for our partners and resellers through regular channels. So in a nutshell, HERE Tour Planning API is an optimization service for so-called many-to-many jobs. On the one side, you have many transport orders to be optimized for many vehicles you might have in fleets. This is a complex problem, so-called multi-vehicle routing problem, but it becomes even more complex if you have cost constraint, your fixed, your variable cost, as well as traffic, driving shifts, time windows associated with each job. So what we wanted to do is that to remove this complexity from the day-to-day routine dispatching process and abstract it as in terms of a service and offer it on our HERE location platform. So what at the end of the service call, what the dispatcher can expect is ready to be served tours for each of the vehicles that will be used. These routes can be dispatched or transported to mobile hand devices or navigation units so that the drivers can start using those tours with turn-by-turn navigation or mobile apps to start delivering those jobs. So this is the level of automation that we wanted to enable for fleet companies, for logistic companies. And I want to showcase this with examples as well as a small demo at the end of the session. So just to give you a quick overview of what features are included in the HERE tool planning. So as I mentioned, HERE tool planning allows creating routes for all vehicles in the fleet, but there is a caveat. We do not intend to use all vehicles. The optimization service chooses required number of vehicles from the fleet, and in doing so, it always tries to take into account different kind of cost and time constraints. In case of these tours need to be adjusted, the service allows replanning of all or selected tours in a very flexible way. This is increasingly a valuable feature if you consider dynamic routing patterns, dynamic rerouting patterns according to traffic, according to operating conditions. Dispatchers expect prompt response from a service when they want to change a tour. Also, as new transport orders start coming in, they also want to find a flexible way to include it in the already planned tours. Many of us are aware of time slots and time windows allocated to transport jobs. What tool planning API does is it tries to provide not just one, but multiple time windows for each transport order or a job. And this is a very valuable feature in last mile scenario where each transport order has a specific ETA and the customers are approached again if they were not there in the first try. So this kind of retrying can be enabled through the tool planning. We don't want to limit this API to just the last mile scenario. We want to increase its reach in more, let's say, a broader logistic operation. For example, middle mile, where the truck routing is important, where traffic data is important. I will explain you where it fits, but what our HERE location platform allows is to extract this data from the platform and embed it in our APIs. Specifically, vehicle attributes, traffic regulations, truck-specific routes, those are the things which we offer out of the box. Coming back to the operating scenario, transport orders and vehicles can be customized according to attributes. For example, a transport order can be defined not just by dimensions like length, width, depth, but flexibly like pallets, boxes, parcels. Similarly, the vehicle's properties can be described. How many pallets fit into a vehicle? Does the vehicle require refrigerated transport? Does it have a ramp? Those constraints can be configured while calculating the tours. One more thing that we realized is that in many cases, the driver shift times is very important to be considered as a time constraint. Many logistic operators have shifts, morning, afternoon, evening shifts, and tours have to be delivered or tours have to be carried out only in those sessions. So we allow users or dispatchers to create those shifts, and tours are calculated according to those, so that the drivers after end of each tour can return back to the hub. This is not a monetary constraint, but an important operational constraint that our API supports out of the box. Coming to the kind of transport orders that you can include, we are allowing not just deliveries, but pickups, as well as a combination of both. In case you have multiple transport orders going to a single location, it is already pre-clustered or grouped so that it is put into the same vehicle and does not cause any confusion. We are also working out how sequence of these deliveries or transport orders can be configurable. Many a times dispatchers want to prioritize a certain transport order over others. So these are the things we are working on. This is on our roadmap, and we are awaiting feedback. Before I go into more industry scenarios, use cases, and examples, I just want to quickly tell you where is it available. So here, tour planning is available in all major geographies. We want to serve companies without any restrictions on their coverage, like large logistic players. They operate on a global scale, and this is possible because of HERE location platform and its coverage. So we rely on HERE location platform's availability. Nevertheless, we are also expanding it. Our focus has now also more into APAC region, where we are seeing large demand for e-commerce last mile deliveries. So we are eager to increase our presence there.
Hi, sorry, I'm more. And to get a better understanding of the interest of our audience, we do have prepared a poll question to understand the interest, because as you said, we have 3 major topics to cover today, or 2, right? Maybe we ask our audience what they are more interested in. So you can shift forward and back, because it's I know the presentation is very rich, it's amazing, but let's ask them, Jessica, what they are more interested in.
Yes, thank you, Karina. So before we dive into Amol's presentation, I would like to know, out of which area are the questions you expect an answer from your tour planning solutions? So is this more like pre-planned delivery, same-day delivery, freight planning and capacity optimization, all of the above, or none of the above? So please take some time to answer our poll question now, and then Amol can move forward with his presentation. So we are just waiting a couple more seconds until all the answers come in.
I hope to cover all the use cases, hopefully.
Okay, I will close the poll shortly, so be sure to put in your answer right now. Okay, so thanks everybody for voting. And I will share the results with you now. So 20% of you are especially interested in pre-planned delivery, 7% in same-day delivery, 67% in all of the above, and only 7% in none of the above.
So it is very encouraging to see all of the above at 67%. That is encouraging. And for the 7% who click none of the above, please get in touch and tell us what exactly are you looking for. And hopefully we can find a suitable demo for you. This gives a good head start into the next section. So where tour planning finds its fit and how it has evolved along with our platform. So like I mentioned before, HERE tour planning is a native service to our platform. And platform offers us a set of generic services in terms of geocoding, traffic data, map content, road networks, all of this, along with a certain other set of services like matrix routing, truck-specific routing, ETAs. So all these things are more industry agnostic, but what we have found is that as we move towards more transport and logistics, not just that we abstract it, but also match it to the customer's requirement. And this is where HERE tool planning found its origin. We call it an enabler services for our soon to be launched HERE Last Mile, which is an end-to-end solution for e-commerce delivery, last mile delivery applications. So this is where it found its origin. But soon we found acceptance in other use cases, such as field services. We are discussing a use case with a cash distribution and collection company, which basically serves a large network of ATMs. They deploy armored vehicles to collect those cash. The position is continuously monitored. This is where we are finding an application of tool planning as a central tool to deploy these vehicles. The other thing is about fleet optimization, where the planners would like to create scenarios for different business parameters, or reserving vehicles, calculating the profit out of it. So those are the things where we also find application. But I think as we move along, there will be many more applications. And a very interesting use case that I came across last week is that our internal team at HERE is using tool planning to deploy our sensored vehicles that these vehicles go in the city and create maps and update maps of the cities. So our internal team is using to deploy automotive grade fleets in the cities to plan their tours. This was also an interesting application. So we certainly want to expand the reach, but our focus will be on logistic and transport use cases. And in the next phase of it, I would like to walk you through 3 important use cases and how it affects not just the times of today, but also as in a near-term and long-term future, how tour planning can be contributing to that. So the first use case that I want to discuss is about pre-planned delivery, as some of you are already looking forward to it, where tool planning finds its fit. So in this case, specifically e-commerce, last mile, even pre-planned fresh grocery deliveries, smaller manufacturers who want to ship their goods directly to the customers, where basically the logistic operators or the planners, they either have dynamic routes with fixed set of fleets, so they might own a small number of vehicles themselves, but their transport orders, and with that their tours keep changing from day to day. This is where the planners are looking for an easy service, an easy tool based on it, to give the transport orders in and get ready tour with certain costs, such as cost per kilometer, or employing a driver for that job. Considering those costs, you want to make sure that you're optimizing the fleet as maximally. So that is one context. The second context is similar to the cash collection and distribution use case, where you have a fixed route, but a variable fleets or jobs. So in this case, your network of coverage is fixed. So it can be, let's say, flower shops along the city where you deliver flowers. So those shops actually remain constant, but you might have, depending on the availability of the vehicle or driver, dynamic number of assets to dispose, so to distribute these goods. And you want to make sure that with those vehicles, you execute all your transport orders. This is where tool planning can give you a quick view or quick routes and also tell you if there are any unassigned, unexecuted transport orders. So these are the two cases. So just to repeat, in one case, you might have continuously changing routes, but fixed number of vehicles, and you want to make sure that your everyday changing demand is being managed by those fixed fleets. Or you might have a fixed set of network and nodes that you want to serve with a variable number of vehicles, but make sure that all your transport orders are covered. So these are the pre-planned deliveries that you always keep ready. And as I said, this has a huge, this is coming from a huge market segment, last mile. And I want to just quickly share my views on how it is evolving and where it is going, and how tour planning can contribute to it. So according to, we have all seen the surge in the last mile. We have all ordered online on Amazon, on Zalando. We've all experienced what is good about it, what is not good about it. So it is increasingly putting pressure on logistic operators and e-commerce players on their margins, how to serve this demand, how to deal with the volatility that is there. And according to this report, research report from World Economic Forum, it is not necessarily that you keep adding vehicles or keep adding distribution centers. The logistic operators have to start to manage their networks properly. They have to start to manage their fleets properly. One of the steps that is recommended is how do you consolidate those loads or the parcels or packets that you are receiving. How do you consolidate and deconsolidate as you go along your transport chain? It could be middle mile, it could be last mile, or it could also be collections. That is where the intelligence is. Secondly, are these logistic operators going to add more shifts or more delivery routes? For example, nightly deliveries in crowded cities, metropoles, where the traffic and parking congestions are a regular problem. Can nightly delivery solve it? And in this case, you can imagine a dispatcher who's not willing to work that late. Is there a service that can automate for those sessions? Can it create pre-planned deliveries for the night transport? Can it adapt it to changing condition? This is where tour planning can contribute. The second is logical, dynamic rerouting. As the traffic and congestion creates stoppages, waiting times for the last mile drivers, can you adapt these tours on the fly? Can you add another stop to it? Can you make most of the drivers waiting in a traffic jam, instead of letting him to wait? Can you change his route dynamically? Those are the things that would create more profitability, as well as create a better customer experience. And the third is about climate awareness. As we go forward, we are looking at the trends where delivery fleets, urban logistic is getting electrified. More electric vehicles, small, large, are finding their way into city logistics. This is where tour planning out of the box can help. We have, for example, a feature in our API which lets you configure a vehicle type and lets you define maximum distance it can travel. All of us are aware electric power, limited battery life. Changing that battery profile according to the load has huge implication on what is the maximum tour it can take. And this is where not just that the vehicles are changing, but the services to use those vehicles have to change. And we are happy that we have a feature, or we have an API that can allow for those changes. So what it means is that if you look at it short term, we've all seen the importance of last mile, but this is definitely going to change within the next few years. And we, from our services side, have to continuously contribute to that. So this is about the pre-planned delivery. The second delivery, second use case is an extension of the pre-planned delivery. In many cases, those pre-planned deliveries are dispatched, but the planners have to keep making changes according to the new orders that come in. This can happen in many ways, but two important ways. What we have seen from our experience is that according to the pre-plan, the vehicles are made available, but planners already know that there is some space, some capacity left for incoming fresh orders. For example, in afternoon sessions, if the tours are not started, you can always consider the morning orders and try to squeeze them in available capacity. And this is where you are not only trying to serve your customer in a prompt way, but also making sure that you're using every possible space left in the vehicle and making sure that you get better return on investment. This is where the number of stops increase, but you also get, for every stop, you also get some revenues, additional revenues. So this is quick turning around for the same day deliveries. This is where planners can no longer rely on their experience, on their manual ways of working. They have to be given a tool that is fast, that can change, that can react to the actual conditions. In the second case is a little more complicated, little more driven by the processes. Here you adapt the in-transit routes. So if the vehicles are already on track, can you change the routes to incoming transport orders? This happens most likely in pickups. So pick up along the routes. So you know that your vehicle has delivered parcels and there is some space for pickups. Can you ask the driver to execute those pickups? And it happens a lot in fashion retail where you have 50% of the goods being returned. Do you have to send another vehicle for pickups, or can you just accommodate it in already moving van? And why I said this is more an operating challenge is sometimes the dispatchers through their processes are restricted to change anything once the tours are dispatched. But I think if there is a flexibility to change the tours in real time, this can have a positive impact on the overall profitability of the tour. This is where a feature in tour planning where incoming transport order can be flexibly inserted in the already planned route. So you can either input you can either ask the new transport order to be the next or the last of the tour, or let the API decide where is the best place to insert this tour plan so that you get the best cost to benefit ratio. Now this has probably more impact into the let's say food logistics or on-demand food that we have ordered. In the pandemic, I'm sure every one of us has ordered pizzas from the Domino's or Pizza Hut. We've all seen how important it is that our pizza is served fresh and warm. What has changed in the pandemic is that these pizza chains, these food chains, are relying more on the third-party logistic platforms such as Uber Eats, such as Grubhub or DoorDash, our local Lieferhelds, for example. These platforms are not only logistic platform, they not only invest in the fleet physically, physical assets, but also providing services for these restaurant owners. For example, payment, tracking, routing. This is where we think tour planning can easily be integrated in such logistic platforms, allowing the platform to concentrate on value-added features such as demand predictions. How can you predict demand for the weekend? What food will be ordered? What restaurants will be loaded? How do you pool those orders together? What kind of vehicle mix you keep ready for the incoming days? Can you use cheaper modes? Can you use faster modes? Those are the decisions that the logistic platforms have to make. But from tour planning, you're sure that once you have made those decisions, the tour plans are easily created and the jobs are getting done. Now, keeping an eye on it, we also think that the fleet mix is also changing. There are new mobility options coming in. Not just the fancy drones and autonomous vehicles, they're also important in the long term, but what we are looking at is bicycles being used, electric scooters, electric bikes are being used more often for these. And what we are doing now in tour planning is kind of supporting those in the routing. final stage routing phase, final stage routing. In our location platform, we do have these attributes to support scooter and bicycle routing. We are accommodating it in terms of in our tool planning API, so that the users don't have to create anything around it. They can have a always ready dispatchable tours. So this is where we are monitoring the trends. What we also think is autonomous vehicles or drones cannot be ignored. It will be relevant in the medium term, long term. This is where once you remove the driver from the picture, it is also important what kind of sophistication you need in the end-to-end automation. What is the role that tour planning will then perform? It's still unclear, but we do think there is a potential so that the whole end-to-end process will be automated. Last but not least, also a little less popular from the survey, the planning case, which is more seen in the heavy commercial vehicles, or let's say trucking industry, where we think that tour planning is getting, let's say, a kind of a orientation. We're still learning from this market what tour planning should be able to do, what are the expectations. We are learning it. Nevertheless, in initial discussion, we found out that the challenge here is completely different than what we have seen in pre-planned and last mile, pre-planned and same-day deliveries. Here, the role of dispatcher is not just to execute the transport job, but the pressure is to make it profitable all the time. And this is where the tour planning comes into picture. So dispatchers always create a pre-plan for their whole fleet. They always have a contracted carrier, subcontracted carriers with number of vehicles that you can book or reserve, but you want to make profit out of it. You want to be, you want to make use of those booked trucks or booked transport capacity. But on the other side, you also have an option of keeping certain transport orders in the warehouse. You don't need to execute every order in the next possible day. You can keep it in warehouse. And this is the challenge that we are facing, where the dispatchers want to use a service like tour planning to create scenarios, create profitability plans, then reserve the capacity or get the rates. It's kind of a bidding process. And once you have the vehicles, make sure that those vehicles are optimally used. And this is not only to deliver large loads, palletized load, but also kind of then pick up certain pallets along the route. What we have also seen is not the whole capacity of the truck is available. So-called less than truckload, where every vehicle has partially available space. And then you have to make sure which palletized load would fit into which vehicle. This becomes a second order change, second order optimization problem. So we are still understanding what are the exact requirements. But the challenge is clear. Dispatchers relying on manual, semi-manual process require a tool to automate it, to automate their process so that they can deal better with the dynamically changing transport demand. And there was probably no better or worse time to see how it impacts our lives. So basically, in the pandemic time, our interaction with a couple of medium-sized third-party logistic players. What they were expecting, what challenges they faced in this time, made it clear that it is going to be important to automate the dispatching. So that is their first challenge. They discovered it in this. They want to be focused on it, and they want to use services, build their own tools around it, or integrate within their SAP, Oracle TM, such a service. Here, what they expect is, because of the pandemic, the kinds of fleet mix they had, the kind of transport capacity they had is changing because the customer demand is changing. And as we go back to normal, the recovery would also be non-linear. For example, there is more demand for electronic goods, computers, laptops, or fitness machines. And there is possibly less demand for automotive related components, machines, and all of that. And that is how they had to adapt in a very short course of time the way they worked with their contracted carriers, subcontracted carriers. They also wanted to make sure the kind of vehicles they had or the kind of transport capacity had is being utilized properly. And dispatchers' historical experience was no longer being used or no longer useful. They had to adapt. The second change what we saw is that because of the surge in e-commerce and last mile, there was a bullwhip effect also in the middle mile cases where different kinds of goods were being stored in the central and regional warehouses and then being transported to the last mile warehouses or distribution centers. So that bullwhip effect was caused by surge in last mile, but again, there was no example for the dispatchers to create their transport plan around. There, they required a service that can allow them to quickly create plans, check for the profitability, decide, and then execute. And this is where, again, those 2 points are making logistic operators to invest even more in digitalization, planning, and automation services. And I think going forward, we also have a job as a let's say a product management role. We also have a job to understand this requirement and keep expanding the scope of tour planning. Now, at this time, I just want to summarize it and tell you where exactly the customer is willing to pay for such a service and what are the expectations. So there are top 3 expectations. The first and foremost is, are they getting their money back? So if they're paying for such a service, are we utilizing the right number of vehicles and thereby reducing the cost, or making sure that they are getting positive returns on investment? That is one thing that I'm always looking to see. The second one is, if they have already invested in a fleet, are the fleets being used properly? Are they responding to the dynamics of the transport demand? If there is a certain vehicle unavailable or a driver unavailable, even then, is the customer executing all the transport orders he had? Is also what is the experience of the dispatchers? Are they being less stressed because of it? Is the process getting digitalized and automated? This will also impact the bottom lines eventually. And the third one is slightly more operational, where, as I said, the dynamic conditions, being able to respond to dynamic conditions, is one factor where they're willing to test such a service, tour planning service, where if the new transport order comes in, how fast the service can respond, how fast can we change the routes, is the new route realistic, is it responding to the traffic condition, is it maintaining all my service windows? So those kind of complicated, stressful, challenging part is, can it be automated, can it be served by our API? And if so, this is where they're willing to pay and integrate such a service within their landscape. Of course, this is from our experience. You all of you are listening have probably understood who experts are from this market. We are willing to listen through our direct and indirect channels to awaiting your feedback after this discussion. But nevertheless, wanted to share what we have learned. Now, just to tell you how we are expanding, how we are developing this product even further. So right now, just give you a quick roadmap for the next, let's say, 1.5 years. We have already launched a version on our developer portal, which is available for testing and evaluation. What we are doing is we are bringing or expanding the number of orders that we can process in a single request. So what we have built is a feature that can handle large-sized problems, both in terms of number of transport orders, but also number of vehicles. We are also investing a lot in making our algorithm faster and high performance. Now, this is a more or less an R&D job. It has its own complication, but we are heavily focused to make our transport, our optimization engine more competitive, high performance, and also serve other use cases. And within that scope, we want to also test multi-objective optimization. What we have seen so far is a single objective where you are only trying to optimize the cost. But sometimes, and I'm sure some of you are already aware of it, you want to distribute the transport orders equally or in a balanced way across all the fleet. Now, this becomes another challenging optimization problem. So once we have a multi-objective optimization engine, we would be able to roll out these features faster, serve other use cases. Along with it, we are also focusing on other modes of mobility which are more relevant in urban logistics space, such as bikes, scooters, or even electric scooters or electric vans. So those are the, let's say, more incremental features that we want to add. And as we go forward, we want to have more smart features, leveraging the data that we get, traffic patterns, ETA deviations, and allow also the users to decide the quality of solution. And I will come to that in a detailed case. But this is again where we are expanding the scope of the API. Now that said, I would like to kind of move you to a demo session, and after that I will hand it over to Jessica for an interactive question answer. So I will now stop sharing my PowerPoint and quickly move to Firefox for a small.
Amor, since you're changing, I just want to have a personal question for you, if you don't mind. So you're actually a neighbor, are you? You're sitting quite close in Karlsruhe, right? So
Yes.
And presenting today. So what's your favorite food these days getting delivered since in the home office?
That's a good question. Let me think. So most often I end up ordering pizzas, that I have to say. But yeah, so Karlsruhe specialty is Spätzle, I think. So we have to still find. And as I said, Karina, there's Karlsruhe is more vegan. So we keep trying out vegan food also. I don't know if there are many people in the audience who are fans of it, but yeah.
So we're very excited to see how the vegan foods arrive in our households, right? So
hopefully powered by HERE tour planning soon.
That we hope, right?
So I hope you can see my Firefox, where I just wanted to show you a quick demo of our service. And we have configured it for a use case of delivering 60 parcels in a crowded city called like Berlin. And how typically a dispatcher application would look like is that he would have a way to upload his 60 orders, what kind of orders are there, what addresses it has to be delivered to, what is a typical service time. So you can see in the window it is 3 minutes, so every parcel takes about 3 minutes to be delivered. At the same time, a way to select a driver shift, for example, starting at around maybe 8 and ending at around 6 o'clock. What is important is then to define operating limits. What are the number of vehicles you have? So in this case, 10 small vehicles maybe. What is the capacity per truck? Now this again has to be aligned with how you define your parcels. So if you define in terms of, let's say, boxes, the capacity can also be described in boxes, simple. Or you can define with length, width, depth, then the capacity has to be defined also like that. So we have aligned it here to the same dimension as parcels. So each truck or a van takes about 20 parcels. Important is the way you define your cost. And to simply say it's either a fixed or variable cost, but then you can split into it. What does it mean as a fixed cost? So it could be vehicle renting. So you are leasing a vehicle. Is it per day, per kilometer, per month? So those are the things. It is completely dependent on the business. Distant cost, again, up to the use case. Is it per kilometer? Is it distance? Does it mean how long a trip can take? So those are the things depend on example. Here we have kept it simple. It costs each parcel or each vehicle $5 per kilometer. Duration cost is an important. It just indicates if you're paying a driver for the whole trip, does it cost you to employ that driver for a whole day or a month, then you can split it into an hour or a day or a month, depending on it. So this is basically the whole, let's say the operating limit. So you can define vehicle constraints, you can define driver side constraints, and then you can simply say, plan my tour. And important here is that we look at all the parcels being delivered. And if a parcel does not get delivered, then what is the reason? Now, here it is probably a simple case where we assign 59 out of 60, and we get to see 3 vehicles out of the 10 being used, so most efficient. What we also see is that for this 59 jobs, what is the total distance traveled, so that you can work out the total duration and total cost. But also important is that, do you have routes that I can dispatch it to my drivers of these vehicles? So for each vehicle individually, you also get the time required, cost, but also the routes. At each vehicle, you can see how many or what is the arrival time at this destination, and what is the departure time, and what kind of a transport order it is. Is it a delivery? Is it a pickup? So that you are aware of your service times, and you can send a notification to the customer saying that the driver will arrive at the gate at this time. Now, important factor is the flickering lines that you see. That means that the route is according to the current traffic pattern. So I'm planning these tours in real time. So right now I'm planning for the traffic in Berlin. So if there is any delays or any traffic related situation, this should be considered while routing. And the one job that is not delivered, it is not reachable in the time window. So it is because we are using only 3 vehicles, one job gets left out because it's not deliverable in the 8 to 6 time shift. Again, it's how the API works. We are working on it, as I said, in the features where the customer can specify, please assign all the jobs. Right now, what our API does, it tries to really minimize the cost. So you can experiment what is the cost of leaving one job assigned, and then see if there are 4 vehicles that are being used, but at the same time, all your jobs are getting done. But we have received the feedback that we are also working on it, that if the job gets unassigned, how to kind of allocate it to in a different way. But for the time being, if a job gets unassigned, the response of the API will mention the reason for it. Sometimes it could be because of the traffic delays, the time window for that job cannot be maintained. So this is the information that comes out of the API, so that the dispatcher is aware why a job is not being delivered. So it was a relatively simple demo, to be honest, but I wanted to make sure that we, also stick to the time. So I will hand it over now for questions. And so Jessica, over to you.
Thank you very much, Amol. So before we go over to the Q&A part of this webinar, we will have one last poll question. I will show it now. So do you have a current project where you would like to make use of the HERE Tour Planning API? So please take the time to answer again, and the options are: yes, I would like to evaluate tour planning; yes, I'm interested in commercial conditions; or both, or none, actually. So please take some time to put in your answer now, and then we will move on to the Q&A part of this webinar. So now the answers are coming in. I'm closing this poll right now. Thank you all for taking the time. So Here you should see the answers. So 10% are interested in commercial conditions, 50% are interested in both, and 40% are interested in none of the above.
Thank you, Jessica. Very interesting results, aren't they?
I think, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely
Yeah.
have the evaluation plan, Karina. So I think this is a
So
good
that's
start.
what we do. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is a good
exactly.
start. Yeah.
So we're just sharing. So if you're interested in evaluating and want to understand a bit better, so you can just send us an email for a free trial. And although for those 40% who are not interested in tour planning, or the other 7% who weren't interested, so HERE has a huge portfolio. And so no matter what the product you're interested in, just shoot us an email. Please use your business address. We would be very happy to work with you on getting you that stuff tested. Right. So I see we have quite a few questions, but we only have 5 minutes left. So let's go over to Jessica and Amol to answer those.
Thank you very much, Karina. So as Karina said, we are moving over to the Q&A part of our webinar. And since time is almost running out, we are only answering like 1 or 2 questions now. But for those that we aren't able to pick up on now, we are happy to provide you with a follow-up email. So the first question we got is, why is the last parcel not mapped to a 4th vehicle? Is this an error? So I think this question is relating to your demo, Amol.
Yeah, correct. So I think in the particular demo case, we received the API response, which says that because of the traffic delay, the time window was not able to maintain, and that's why the job gets assigned. But in many cases, we have found that sometimes the cost of the vehicle is a little more expensive. So keeping a job unassigned is relatively cheaper instead of a new vehicle being deployed. And that's the trade-off that any optimization engine will do, and depends on the business parameters. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then we also have a second question, and this question actually came in a couple of times in different wording. So I want to ask you too, Amol. Is it planned to take toll costs into account when optimizing costs?
Yes, I think there is definitely, we do leverage HERE's other services, which includes toll cost. Right now we don't, but it's a very good suggestion. It is an incremental feature and definitely be part of our future release to consider toll cost automatically. And we as a HERE platform also maintain that data. Shouldn't be that challenging, but a very good suggestion. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Amol. And I think we are reaching the end of this session right now. So again, we will share the slides and the recording of the webinar with you, as well as the answers to your questions that we didn't have time to talk about just now. We hope that we were able to give you a small but interesting insight into the optimization of your fleet operations with HERE Technologies. So thank you very much to our presenters Karina and Amol, and thank you all for taking the time to attend. Since we are always very interested in your feedback and of course want to improve further, we would really appreciate it if you would take the time to answer some feedback questions right after the webinar. If you don't have the time now, you will also be able to answer them through a link provided in the follow-up email you'll get. So thank you very much in advance and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.